Fast food worker tells cop he's not serving police, boss has perfect reply. The officer pulled to a window at the fast food joint. He had just finished a 13-hour shift and was looking forward to his meal. The young man working that window looked at him and backed away, mouthing something to the cop. The officer couldn't hear him since the window was closed. The guy finally approached. The man told him he couldn't hear him, and the employee said, "I ain't serving no police," and closed the window. The officer was left without words. Scott Naff had married his high school sweetheart over 20 years ago, and they still loved each other like on the first day. He always wanted to become a cop, and she was his biggest supporter throughout his career. When his wife had heard what he experienced at that fast food restaurant, she was livid with rage, knowing how much the man sacrificed every day for his job. It wasn't fair for him to be treated like this. Scott Naff was a beloved cop at his job and in his community. He always helped anyone in need, and kids wanted to be like him one day. He always did his job well and did everything by the book. He never broke any rules or took advantage of his status. But even by doing all that, he couldn't avoid being treated like an enemy sometimes. Scott was married for a long time, almost as long as he was a cop. And he was committed to both his job and marriage. His wife, Kathy Naff, loved him dearly and always supported him in everything he did. But when she heard how her husband was treated just because he was a cop, she knew that something had to be done about it. It had been a long day at work. Lately, they became more often, so Scott had developed the habit of treating himself to his favorite meal every time he got off from such a shift. That day the cop got off from a 13-hour workday. While driving to the restaurant on the way home, he was thinking about what to order. The man was quite excited. He never expected his day to turn into a nightmare, though. The cop was baffled. He had no good reply. As he pulled up to the window to take his food, the person greeting him was not having it. Even though Scott had paid for his food, the restaurant employee didn't want to hand it to him. What was going on? The cop was left without words. The young man who was supposed to serve Officer Scott was visibly distressed, as if he was terrified by the cop. Did Scott do something to him in the past? Was he arrested before? The employee didn't say anything at first. He was just trying to avoid the cop at all costs. No one knew the reason behind his reaction. Scott was beginning to worry. The fast food joint was part of Scott's favorite restaurant chain. And that particular location was the one he visited the most, as it was on his way home from work. After the awful experience, though, he vowed to never return to that location again and boycott the restaurant franchise entirely. He was never treated this badly in his entire life. It was all about the uniform. The cop realized that his uniform made the young employee uncomfortable and angry. He was restless and fidgeting, not knowing how to act in front of the public servant. Eventually, he went in the back, leaving Scott waiting for his food in his car. He was confused and had no idea why no one would give him his food. Scott was in uniform and his police vehicle. He paid for his food and drove forward to the next window. The young man working that window looked at him and turned back, mumbling something to the cop. Scott told him he couldn't hear him, and the guy said, "I ain't serving no police," and closed the window. The guy proceeded to tell everyone in McDonald's, including the manager, that he was not going to serve the police. Why would he do that? The employees stared at Scott, trying to figure out what they should do. After all, he had paid for his food, but no one wanted to give it to him. The manager did nothing to help the situation. It's amazing that people can act this way, but even more shocking that the manager allowed him to continue with his antics. Scott knew at that point that he would never visit that McDonald's again. Finally, another guy brought the food to the cop without saying a single word. As Scott pulled around the building, a gentleman who was in the McDonald's at the time approached his car and told him how he had never seen anything like this. He said the distressed employee had told the manager that she could fire him, but he wasn't going to serve the police. Scott's wife shared the entire story on the internet. The post quickly spread on social media, causing outrage among thousands of people. This was such an eye-opener for the family as to what the people who protect the citizens have to go through on a daily basis. They put their lives on the line for others each and every day, and they still get treated with disrespect. The entire situation had reached even some local newspapers and media companies, prompting McDonald's to issue a statement in response. "At our restaurants, we are dedicated to serving all of our customers, including the police officers who protect and serve our communities," the fast food chain said in the statement. "We are conducting a full investigation into this matter and will take appropriate actions." Immediately after this happened, Scott emailed a complaint to corporate. Later that night, he received a standard email back thanking him for his concern. The cop then called the franchise owner, who said they would look into this. They called Scott back 5 hours later and said they had let the young man go, but the manager said she knew nothing about this.